All right, it is 12:33. I'm going to go ahead and get started. We have a packed agenda today. I think we'll do just fine getting through it. Um, my name is David Fenley. I am the chair of the Transportation Accessibility Advisory Committee. Thank you all for being here for the November installment. I'm still writing down names here to make sure that I have everybody and we have a quorum. Who is 612 number ending in 49?
Me, David Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Can everybody hear me? This is Carrie Sheldon.
Yes, at least I can hear you.
I can hear you.
I can hear you. This is Heidi.
Yep. My sound wasn't working last month.
Okay, we definitely have a quorum. I am going to read through everybody who I have. If any TAC members are here and I don't call their name, please let me know. Sam Jasmine.
I am here, and somebody please remind me how to mute.
I think it's *66. I got it somewhere in here. Just *6. Perfect. All right, Heidi.
I am here.
Patty.
Here.
Chris. Bates. Diane. Gotcha. Richard.
Here.
Gary.
Here.
John. I see you, John. Claudia. And myself. Did I miss anybody? Patsy.
Correct, I'm here.
Awesome. Did I miss anybody else? Cool. Let's go ahead and get started. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda today.
So Richard.
Second.
Thank you. So I had Richard second, and then was that you, Chris, that moved? Just for meeting minutes. Who moved the motion?
I think I might have, Richard.
Okay, so Richard moved and then Sam Jasmine second. All right, yes for approve, no for don't approve. Sam.
Yes.
Heidi.
Yes.
Patty.
Yes.
Chris. Still dealing with some mute and unmute. Chris. Diane.
Yes.
Richard.
Yes.
Gary.
Yes.
John. John Clark, you can give me a head nod if you want. Maybe you can't hear me. I don't think John can hear me. I'll send him a message that he's probably working on his audio. Claudia. Thumbs up. And Patsy.
I'm here.
And then myself, yes, so that passes. May I have a motion to approve December's minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Sam. Is there a second?
Hi, Patsy.
Thank you, Patsy. All right, so yes, if you approve October's minutes, no, if you don't. Is there any discussion actually before I go through roll call? on the minutes? All right, Sam,
Yes.
Heidi,
Yes.
Patty,
Yeah, yes.
Chris, Diane,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
John, Claudia,
Oh, God.
thank you. Patsy,
Yes.
and myself is yes as well. Awesome. We moved through that smoothly. Thank you very much. All right, let's jump right in with Leslie Kandaras, the police work group. This is something that we brought up last month, and it just so happens that the Met Council was ready to give us some good stuff. So you have some folks here with you, Leslie. I think you might be leading this, so I will let you take the helm from here.
All right, thank you, Chair Fenley, and thank you to the committee for having us here today. My name is Leslie Kandaras. I work at Metro Transit as the Chief of Staff to the General Manager, and I am currently the staff coordinating lead of this council member police work group. So we're really happy to be here with you today and look forward to discussing the work group's work with you. And as the chair mentioned, I'm joined by 3 other members of our staff core team that's supporting this work. So I actually, before I go any further, I want to pause and have Michelle Fure, Lieutenant Ahmed, and Leah Palmer introduce themselves as well, if they're all on. And maybe, Michelle, I said your name first, so if you want to just pop on and say a few words about your work with this work group as well.
Absolutely. Thanks, Leslie. And hi, everybody. It's Michelle Fure. I'm the Manager of Public Involvement for the Met Council, and I have been working on this effort for quite a while. It's been my pleasure and privilege to support this work. My primary role so far has been to provide a communications and engagement lens to the working group activity, but also I was the project manager and contact for the Citizens League when they were doing their engagement work on this topic. So I can answer questions about their work or anything else related to that. And I'm happy to be here today. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Salah Ahmed. I'm acting lieutenant with Metro Transit Police Department. I'm currently assigned to the patrol division. I'm also part of the work group, and I'm happy to be here today.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Leah Palmer. I'm also with the Metro Transit Police Department. My primary work is in policy analysis and research and some of these special projects like this. I'm very happy to be here, and I want to thank you for including us today.
All right, thank you, Michelle, Lieutenant, and Leah. And our purpose here today is really to give you a brief overview of what this work group is, what they're working on, and then we're hoping to use the bulk of our time to really listen to you, both your perspectives on transit safety and security, topics you want to make sure are coming in front of the work group or are under consideration by the work group, but also to get your sense of process. And I'll talk a bit more about this in the presentation, but the work group has specifically said they're interested in hearing perspectives on transit security from people with disabilities. And so as the Transportation Accessibility Advisory Committee, we really wanted to get your sense on how we can most effectively do that. So next slide, please. All right, so just to give you a brief overview, back in August of this year, the Metropolitan Council formed this police work group. And this was really an extension of work that's been going on for over a year. In June of 2020, Chair Zelli committed publicly that the Met Council was going to review the Metro Transit Police Department to really understand its current policies, practices, and procedures, and look for opportunities to really strengthen the police department's work. And so the council, as the oversight body of the police department, has really been working towards that goal for over a year now. Michelle Fure mentioned a few minutes ago that the first phase of this work was the Citizens League led community engagement work. And right now, the police work group is working to build upon that as they fulfill their charge. And what the council specifically asked them to do was to develop a set of recommended transit safety and security outcomes and potential strategies to achieve those outcomes, and to report back to the full council with their recommendations by the end of February of this coming year. As part of their recommendations, they also must identify the data that they expect the police department to provide to them, since we know providing that degree of data publicly is really critical to accountability and transparency. So that's a high-level statement of what this group is meant to do. And before I go any further, I actually want to check with Michelle to see if she wants to say a few more words about the phase that happened before this, the Citizens League work, since that was a really extensive process, and she was the staff lead for that portion. So Michelle, do you want to just say a few more words about that at this point?
Yeah, I'll just say a couple of things, and then certainly open for questions and happy to point you to the detailed report that the Citizens League provided. They took a really intentionally inclusive process for engaging community, where they had a community committee actually of people who represented a number of different locations, age groups, ethnicities, and identities, and that included some people who are living with disabilities in their work. So they use that team to really shape the engagement and make sure that the engagement process was as comprehensive and inclusive as possible. Certainly anytime you're doing a broad engagement effort during a global pandemic, there is some difficulty in reaching folks, but they did have quite a positive response rate to their survey and to some of the more in-person outreach that they did. And some of the key findings really do are reflected in the structure of the police work group and the work plan that is guiding that work, namely that they want a better security presence on the system. They want to see some additional response to some of the more quality of transit ideas around reliability of transit, lighting, just a more vibrant ridership base on regular route transit in particular, because there certainly is a decrease in ridership currently and has been for some time. So having more people on the system is really going to improve that, and they talked a lot about that. They also expressed that the security presence, and I might use air quotes in terms of security, because there was some clear guidance from community members that they don't necessarily feel like there need to be more police officers on the system, but there does need to be someone who has some authority and can help solve problems, or at least de-escalate any conflict that's existing. Those came through in the report as well, and those were pretty consistent across the board. A lot of the folks that participated in the process said these things. So those are kind of the high level pieces. We also did some frontline employee engagement, so bus drivers, transit operators from rail, and people that work on the system in terms of mechanics, station maintenance, etc. And they also wanted to see a stronger security presence on the system, and making sure that customer needs are being addressed in this regard. So it was really a supplement to what the Citizens League did, but it echoed a lot of the themes that came through there. As I said, I'd be happy to share the report with you if you haven't had an opportunity to see it, and I can certainly stand for questions. Just wanted to give you kind of a high-level summary of what we learned.
Thank you, Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to the next slide, please. So building off of what Michelle shared, hopefully that gives you some context of the starting point for where this work group is heading. So the work group started meeting back in late August, right as the Citizens League work was wrapping up. And when the council formed the work group, part of the charge to the work group was to do and consider these things that you're seeing on the slide. So the work group has been charged with ensuring recommendations address safety and security for riders and for employees. They've been charged with acknowledging the history of systemic racism in policing. They are charged with reviewing and identifying opportunities to strengthen policies, procedures, and practices. They've been given specific topics to dig into that have come up both through the Citizens League work and through other work that the council members are doing themselves and what they're hearing in their districts. So some of the topics the work group is discussing include the use of force, how the code of conduct is enforced, interaction with youth, the general oversight and governance around the police department, officer training, and again, the data questions. And again, as Michelle talked about, the Citizens League engagement is considered to be a really key foundational input into this work. But at the same time, the council recognizes that there's opportunities to incorporate additional stakeholders, data, best practices into the work group's work as well as they get or prepare themselves to develop recommendations. So that gives you a sense of kind of the shape of the work group's efforts as they move forward through their process. And this Friday, they're going to meet for what I believe is the 6th time. And they're basically meeting every other week until the end of February when their recommendations are due to the full council. Next slide, please. And this is our final slide. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we really were hoping to use this time to listen to you, to hear your perspectives as a member of the Transportation Accessibility Advisory Committee on your thoughts or your personal experiences or your ideas related to transit safety and security. The 4 of us are here to listen and to take notes and take this back to the work group to make sure they have your thoughts and your ideas as part of their work. And as I mentioned at the beginning too, certainly if there are opportunities for us to additionally kind of plug your group in or to broaden the perspectives we're hearing in this work, we're interested in those process ideas as well. Chair Chambliss, who's the council member leading the work group, has expressed that we could potentially build in TAAC members to a future meeting of the work group if there'd be interest in having the work group visit them. There may be other ways we can make sure you feel connected to this work as well. So with that, Chair, I'm going to stop presenting, and we're really here to listen and learn from your committee.
Thank you all very much. I'm pretty sure that we'd be very interested in some sort of overlap between our two groups. I have some thoughts, but I'd like to punt it to TAAC members. I see Darryl Sand. Go ahead, Darryl. You're muted, sir.
Sorry about that, Chair, for being late. My name is Darryl Paulson. I'm the Vice Chair of TAAC. And I was really excited about this topic today and about the work that you guys are doing, particularly in the BIPOC community or in the equity committee. I know you guys are asking for those committee members' input. I am a little taken back by the fact that TAAC, the Transportation Accessibility Advisory Committee, has been around since probably the 70s or 80s, rather, and we always seem to be at the tail end of the project. You got 4 months to go here yet, but you've had all these other committee meetings and these stakeholders' input, but yet now you're coming to TAAC and you're saying, please give us your input, give us your insight as far as travelers with disabilities. And what I'm saying is there's many of us on this committee that share many positive experiences and some pretty dangerous experiences too. Personally, I've been maced on the bus, not once but twice. I was locked into my chair, into the space where I couldn't get out of, even if I wanted to get out of the bus, because the bus driver was so scared about what was going on. He wasn't for sure if I was unstrapped or not. So, I mean, I like the fact that you guys are talking about lighting and some things like that, because lighting does give the perception of safety. And if we light some of our really dark areas, sometimes those things that happen in the dark won't happen in the dark anymore. They'll find a different place to make them happen, or those things will come to the light and we'll be able to see who those perpetrators are. I mean, so lighting is very a crucial piece of the success of transit in our region. So I'm glad that you guys are talking about that. But more importantly, do you have officers similar to like the ambassador program that Chair Zelli was looking at? Do you guys have officers that are appropriately engaging folks with mental health issues and folks with different disabilities? Not just somebody who's in a wheelchair, not just somebody with a mental health issue, but somebody that has multiple disabilities and maybe are triggered by a number of things. Maybe they're triggered by the sounds or by the authority on the bus. And do you guys have ways of diffusing that or de-escalating that before the cops are actually called and a uniform officer is dispensed? Now I know all that was a mouthful, and I didn't really give you a lot of time to answer all those questions, but I just really want you to know that I personally want to be a part of this process going forward. And I think 4 months is not enough time to get everything on the table and to try to work through some of those things. So the earlier you can engage us in the future, the better off we'll be. But I personally like what you guys are doing so far, and I would hope that you guys would use the embedded social worker or the embedded ILS worker or the embedded arms worker into the process, because they can tell you what some of those problems are going to be before they happen, so you can kind of diffuse those things before they happen and not be reactive after they happen. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Darryl. Did any of the four folks want to? I think there were maybe 3 or 4 comments / questions in there.
Chair Fenley, I'll say I just thank you, Vice Chair Paulson, for those comments. And I was taking notes throughout, so if you kept seeing me look down, I'm trying to document as much as I can from this meeting, and I really appreciate your feedback. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I did see that, Leslie.
Okay,
so
good. I don't want you to think I'm not paying attention.
I didn't know you were taking notes, so I figured you weren't going to address all my comments, but you were trying to get the gist of it. So I appreciate that.
I will say, and I don't want to put them on the spot, but I don't know if Leah or Lieutenant Ahmed, if you want to address some of the latter questions about how the police department is approaching training or otherwise preparing officers to interact with people in the system. It might be something we need to follow up with you on too, but before we move on, if either of them want to say anything on that front.
I just want to say that we are really training our officers to, use the de-escalation as a first deal or first thing, that when we deal with the, any encounters, so our officers receive training in their academy, and also we have policies that our officers need to review and acknowledge that talks about de-escalation and steps that need to be taken when dealing with people with mental illness or anybody who's having difficulties dealing with the police at that time. So we try our best to really see what can we do, and if we are not able to deal with the situation, we try to reach out to other member of the police force that can come and assist us. So the training is out there, and we are trying to improve and do what can we do to make things much more better for everybody.
Thank you.
Oh, and if I can just follow up real quick
Yes, go
too.
ahead.
In the training academy that new officers go through, there's different components that are taught where, you know, we would bring in someone who can teach about autism. We bring in someone who can teach about, you know, mental health crisis, and try to be cognizant of all the different types of riders and the people that, you know, officers may come in contact with as well. So the training academy is always sort of a growing, changing thing as we try to address individuals' needs and things like that as they come up. But it is part of what they go over too.
Thank you. I'm sure you know this, but deaf and hard of hearing is a big one as well, in terms of awareness for officers on these trains and buses, and stops too. I see Heidi's hand. I'm gonna just make one quick comment before I go to you, Heidi. You mentioned addressing systemic racism. I think that's vitally important. I also think that for us as disability rights advocates, to address ableism, I think we can't do that in a vacuum. I think that we have to be pushing on systemic racism as well. Otherwise, we will not achieve what we want to achieve without pushing on the factors that have oppressed folks of color for centuries in this country, because they're the same factors that oppress folks with disabilities. And stereotypes all stem from similar parts of the human condition. So I think it's important to say that those things don't operate in a vacuum. And there are plenty of folks of color who have disabilities too. Heidi, go ahead.
Yeah, when Darryl was talking, I was going to mention some of the same things. This happened yesterday on the city bus. There was a lady, we think she has emotional problems, but the bus driver just let her just scream and yell and, you know, and get mad and swear, and because her thinking wasn't very clear. And then she took the green line, and I just happened to be on the same train. But how do you do any training on sensitivity? You know, of I am a human being. Yes, I might have disabilities or I might have a mental illness, but you still treat me as a human being. Because if, an example, that lady yesterday, if you treated her like, oh, she's got emotional problems, oh, she's got also, I think she would have just went at you like a mile a minute. So, do you do any training in sensitivity so you can kind of, you know, take some, because the whole bus heard it, the whole train heard it, you know, so we need to just make sure that we're safe and we're okay, but you're doing what you were sent to do. If someone calls, you know, the police or pushes the button, you know, or tells the bus driver, you got to do something. And also, have you been watching or know anything about what the Capitol has been doing? Because the Autism Society has made a big hoo-ha about safety at the bus stops and on the trains, and have an app. So there's a lot of things about disabilities, and the mental illness part has been talked about at the Capitol too. So you might want to be looking at their stuff and what laws and rules and regulations have been put into place, you know, because I've been to some of those hearings. And then the other thing is, how do you train bus drivers? Because I've had this happen, never had it on the train, but mostly on the bus, where a drunk or somebody who likes a girl, which I am, and gets a little bit, you know, in your face, and and I know how to protect myself up to a certain point, but have you done any training where even a man, it could go either way, that the bus driver can, you know, and thank God that my people on the bus cared about me and said, you get off of her, you leave her alone, but can the bus driver help? Have you done training in escalating when somebody starts to get a little liking people for all the wrong reasons, because I've had it happen and I had to figure out how to say no and push them off and do things. And I'm entitled, just because I'm a person with a disability and have a foreign crutch, I'm entitled to ride the bus in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evenings. That shouldn't stop me from being who I am. It's just certain people on the bus and trains aren't always nice. And I have seen where the cops have come in and taken the homeless off the bus because they shouldn't be riding it anymore. And the other thing I've seen is, are you still looking at for safety reasons? Because the cops would come out and check to see if we're paying our fares every so often on the trains. But in the pandemic, I haven't been seeing that as much, So I don't know how many are hopping on the trains for free. So those are just my comments and my concerns. And to go back to Darryl's talking, I 100% want Darryl to be safe, and I and his children and whoever else have kids with disabilities, like their mom and dads, so everybody can be on the bus and the train. Thank you. And if you can answer any of my questions, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
So
Chair,
there's, yeah, go ahead, Leslie.
I was just gonna say, yeah, you raised several great questions, and I am not an expert, particularly on the training issue, to be able to give you a response here. But you're raising topics that I definitely want to bring back to the work group discussion and look into, and particularly the role of the bus operator or the train operator too. We have Leah and the lieutenant from the police department, and certainly they can weigh in if they want to address some of what you raised. But I think you're bringing up a really good point that we have other transit personnel too who can be part of making a safer, more welcoming environment. So yeah, definitely, you gave us a lot to look into. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Do any other TAAC members have comments, questions? Take it away, Darryl. You're muted, Darryl.
I was saying some really good stuff there, but I don't know if my comment should fit in this spot, but as long as we have the lieutenant from the Metro Transit Police Department, I did want to bring up one thing that I noticed, and at the Mall of America Transit Center, in the transit center, particularly where the family restroom is, that door is locked. So they don't unlock that door. They said the reason they lock that door is because they don't want homeless people and vagrants sleeping in there. And I suggested that they keep that door open because it has a nice new little shiny sign on there that said this door must remain open during business hours. Okay, so I suggested that they keep that door open for these very reasons. And he then proceeded to tell me the reason he locks it is because they don't want homeless people in the bathroom or drug addicts. And so I proceeded to tell him, you don't know whether or not I'm a drug addict or not, or a homeless person or not, and I still need to use the restroom. So you need to open the restroom. So he opened the restroom, left it open. It was open all night, as far as I could tell. The next day I went back at a different time. It was locked again. And I proceeded not to say anything because I didn't want to spend the next hour and a half tracking down the officer to make him open it again. And when I did talk to the police officer, they said the reason they couldn't keep it open was because they didn't even have keys to it. Only if somebody else had keys to it. So then they had to send somebody else down to open it. And here's one of the suggestions that I will say, and I know Ken, I hope Ken is in this meeting too. We've had some of the similar concerns at the airport with folks probably using the lactation rooms or the nursing mother rooms when they're not supposed to. So what we've done there is put a camera there. So there's a buzzer. When somebody wants to use that restroom, they push the buzzer, the camera immediately pops up, the dispatch can immediately see that, and then they can open that door remotely. I believe they can do it currently at the transit center restroom, but they may not be trained on how to do it. That was my only issue, and the reason I wanted to address it with the lieutenants now is because both of their staff at the Mall of America had said that was a police department issue. That was not a Metro Transit issue. And they said it wasn't a mall issue. They said it was a transit police issue.
Thank you, Darryl. That really does beg the question, why have facilities if they're not going to be open for use and properly maintained? Before I go to Claudia, I want to give any of the four members a chance. I think that was more of a comment, less of a question, Darryl, but I think that if anybody would like to respond from Leslie, Michelle, Leah, or the lieutenant, feel free to. Otherwise, I'll go to Claudia.
Chair Fenley, I'll just mention, I took notes of what Darryl was saying. I'm not familiar with the specific circumstance there, but we can certainly follow up with our facilities staff as well. If the lieutenant happens to have information on what's going on at Mall of America, welcome him to weigh in, but if not, we can take it back to facilities staff to see what's going on.
Yeah, I will follow up to see if this is like it's our issue or the Mall of America are the ones who are doing it. So I will make an immediate follow-up on it to figure out what's going on with the restroom situation at the Mall of America.
Lieutenant,
I will tell you,
Lieutenant, I will tell you, this is Darryl Paulson. The Mall of America police the Mall of America staff didn't even have a key to it. They had to wait until somebody else brought the key to them. So they didn't even have the key.
and to answer Daryl's question really quickly, just so you know, when you go back to talk to the Mall of America and the policemen's, I see why they are locking it, because I have seen homeless in the bathrooms using it when it was the older stations. And I had to report some drug stuff, and I didn't know if it was diabetes or if it was drugs or what. And they said, thank you. And I've seen homeless, brush their teeth and get dressed in there, because the handicap one, if Daryl's wife was coming with me, she wouldn't have been at the time using the handicap bathroom, but she needed it, for her wheelchair. And I would have reported it and helped her. Or if Daryl was us, he could have helped us, reported it. So I can see why they're doing it, but at the same time, Darryl has a good point too.
Right. And just for clarification, it is right next to the Metro Mobility drop-off. So it is right next to the actual drop-off where Metro Mobility customers would be sitting waiting for their bus.
So we have about 4 minutes left. I want to give other TAAC members a chance to talk. Claudia, do you have a comment or question? You're muted.
Just a quick question. How far does it have to escalate before a passenger can call the Metro Transit police? Because I had an issue the other day, and it was between a passenger who was upset with the driver because it was taking him too long to secure me down into the bus, which it wasn't. He was just in a hurry, and he kept going on, and the bus driver kept apologizing to me because he kept calling me names. And so I just basically told the driver not to even argue with him anymore. And it was just, the driver kept an eye on me during the whole traveling, because the guy was just kept on and on and on. So how far does this go before I can call the police department?
I can answer that. First of all, I'm really sorry that that happened. That's uncalled for in so many different ways. But the minute that you feel unsafe or the minute you feel uncomfortable even, go ahead and call. It doesn't hurt anything. Police officers and the safety folks are there to help you and help the operator in case it would have escalated. It sounds like it didn't get worse, but yeah, the minute you feel that something could happen, even it doesn't have to happen. You know, you don't have to it doesn't have to go physical or anything like that. If you feel uncomfortable, give us a call.
Thank you. I actually thank the bus driver because he made sure I was getting off the bus safely.
Good.
And the guy was right behind me too. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
And Chair, if I may, I just want to make a quick plug as well for Metro Transit's Text for Safety feature. Of course, I'm blanking on the number right off the top of my head, but we have pretty good signage in our vehicles. But in addition to calling the police whenever you're at a point where you're feeling unsafe, just like Leah said, sometimes there are times you're already in an enclosed space and you might not be comfortable making that call. And that's really where Text for Safety comes in. And that goes directly to our transit control center so they can dispatch police if needed. So that's another resource to you as well.
Thank you.
Leslie, can you remind us, is this work group is ongoing or its work will wrap up sometime in the future?
Great question. So the way the business item was structured when the council created the group back in August is that it would sunset essentially when its recommendations were complete and sent to the full council in February. Now that being said, well, on one level, the work will never be done, right? Of the Metropolitan Council exercising its oversight authority over the police department and Metro Transit generally. So even when the work group hits that milestone of submitting its recommendations, I think that sets a new chapter or starts us on a new chapter. It doesn't end the conversation. I think the actual nuts and bolts of what that process looks like as the work group formulates those recommendations and transmits them to the council, I think there will be opportunities. Well, that will happen in a public, space. So I think there'll be opportunities along the way for people to follow and weigh in. It's hard to speak exactly as to what those will be at this moment, but certainly that's the spirit behind that. So I'm not sure if that's directly answering your question or not, Chair, but.
It is. I expected as much. It's good that the work, I mean, clearly the work never ends. But this work group does have to come up with some sort of results. Thank you all very much for joining us. Just a reminder, and as Andy Strzyk
David, are they going to come back in the future and talk to us about the outcome, or do we still have voices to say we don't like certain things, or it needs to go further, not just
So
stop after a certain amount of time?
I was just about to get to that. So they mentioned early on that they would like some overlap between these two groups. I know that their work isn't going to go on for maybe that much longer, but still, I think we had interest from some TAAC members about some overlap and participation in the work group, and it sounds like that was welcome. I think from you said Chair Chambliss or Councilmember Chambliss, that they were interested in that as well. So there will be overlap. Again, this conversation will never end. But I want to make sure that folks who don't have access to the chat, Andy Strzyk reminded folks that you don't have to physically call in to the Metro Transit Police. You can actually text them and interact via text. This is something that's been going on for quite a few years now, and I think that it's been successful. But the number is 612-900-0411. Just for folks who are calling in. That's a good reminder, Andy. Thank you. Leslie, Michelle, Lieutenant, Leah, thank you very much for coming. I'm sure we will see you again. Michelle, we'll see you in just another hour.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for coming. All right, so let's move on to the priority seating video update. Is it Ange?
It is. Hello, everybody. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Just fine.
Can you all hear me okay?
Yep.
Excellent. I can.
Okay. Oops, let's see here. That is not the beginning. There we go. So, hello, everybody. My name is Ange Olson. Thank you, Chair, for introducing me. I am the market development specialist, also known as a marketing project manager for Metro Transit. I was approached by customer relations in establishing a priority seating campaign, educating the public and eventually our operators on priority seating and who gets that. Let's go ahead and go to the next frame here. And so earlier this year, we shot some video with some help of our TAAC members in, who should be using priority seating. This video will be split out into customer-facing video. It'll also be split out into new driver training, which it was actually pushed back instead of late October. It's being pushed back to early December. And then regular driver training, which will take place in January 2022. So this is for the updates and things like that. And then segments of the segments that were filmed and captured will be added to our how to ride videos, which are in the process of being planned right now. So if we're teaching people how to ride the bus, we'll actually include elements of priority seating and making room for those that actually need it. So let's go ahead to the next frame. And so upcoming with this campaign, this is larger than just the video. So we're moving forward. We're going to be placing ads on the blue and green line station monitors in the downtowns. We'll be adding them on what are called the BRT pylons at A, C, and soon to be Orange Line, which will be launching on December 4th. We'll be doing a social media campaign promoting the video. We'll have bus side advertising, reminding people that priority seating is for those that need it. Interior cards on all of our buses. Posters in our garages for the operators as a reminder. Some advertising in Access Press and other supportive publications. Adding priority seating information in future campaigns as like the aforementioned how to ride bus, how to ride light rail. We'll be inserting the previously shot videos into those videos as well. And then recently we also added the symbol for disabled parking is printed into a hard to remove cling and will be added to all the priority seating on light rail trains because we switched over from cloth to plastic seats. And this will serve as a reminder of who should have priority for those seatings. Let's go to the next frame. And so however we monitor this campaign success as we move forward, we will be monitoring our social media pages regarding interactions, click-throughs. We'll also be monitoring customer relations and TIC, which is our Transit Information Center's call-ins regarding priority seating and unable to board calls. We'll be watching these on a quarterly and annual basis. Go ahead and switch. And then I'll open it up for any questions. I wanted to keep the PowerPoint to a minimum because I'm sure we will have some dialogue. And I can see all of your happy faces. And I'll show you mine.
That was very quick.
Yep, I try to be succinct.
Do any I know there are maybe not quite a few, but there are a number of TAAC members who participated in this happening. A little bit of backstory. We've been kind of pushing for the proper usage of priority seating. I know it's difficult. There are plenty of disabilities that are non-apparent, but still we would like to have this space open for folks with disabilities, and this was just one of the recommendations that the Metropolitan Council and Metro Transit picked up on and are rolling with. So I see.
And I'm sorry, Chair, may I add something too?
Go right ahead.
So I worked with Doug Cook, who works in outreach, and he helped me connect with TAAC members who served to evaluate the script, who served as, I'll use the term models, and in the videos as well. So it's not just somebody, it's actually people within the community who are serving and demonstrating how those seats should be used. So as I wanted to say, I have a heartfelt thank you for those that participated. We couldn't have done this without you. So thank you.
Thank you, Ange. So yeah, this is, you know, it's happening, and it's a direct result of this committee's work. So we do appreciate the support from you, Ange, and your colleagues at Metro Transit. Do any TAAC members have questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead,
If I,
Heidi.
okay. I do like the new seats on the trains. I thought they were awesome because they're easy to clean, you know, and wipe down, you know, and get any of the smells out of the trains and stuff. So that's really awesome because it stunk yesterday in one of the trains. So, but I really do like the new seats, you know. I just don't know if winter is going to be a problem if because people put their feet on the seats. So, you know, with their wet boots and shoes and stuff. So we'll have to see how that works. But I do like them. And I want to make sure that we just keep doing what we're doing. And I had another question, but if it comes to me, well, but thank you for what you're doing.
You're very welcome, Heidi. And I'll add to this too, switching over to the plastic seats make things easier to wipe down. When we had the cloth seats and people put their feet up,
Yeah,
it would
because I
just soak
remember.
in.
Yeah, because I remember a while back when I had to go to one of these tech. You know, I got there early, you know, where the TAAC committee had to go and do a
Heidi,
project at one of the buildings. And they asked me that question about how do I like the seating? You know, do you like cloth or do you want plastic? And I said the plastic would be a lot better because we can clean them and wash them down. So you guys were already thinking about it way back in the early days. It's just figuring out how to get the money and the process and the right kind of seats. That I remember you because you were asking me good questions back then.
thank you, Heidi. Any other questions relating to the priority seating video update from TAAC members? I'm curious if folks who participated have any experience they'd like to share. This is really just Ange and her colleagues coming to us saying that this is almost ready to roll out. So yes, was that you, Sam, that I heard?
It is.
Hi, Sam.
Hi. So I wanted to thank you guys for being so great about helping us when we were doing this, and nice to have warm coffee. I have a comment though in the process, if it's okay.
Oh, please.
Well, first of all, I'm anxious to see it. I can't wait till I am hoping we get to see it, and but my comment was afterwards we were sent release forms.
Yes.
To
that was my error.
Oh, that's okay. So I just in the future, if you guys can remember to bring them with you when we're doing it, then we can get whatever assistance anybody needs for, you know, signing those, and nobody has to print out or anything. And
no, and that was completely my human error when that happened.
I did comment on it, but I just wanted to, I didn't know who, you know, how, what process it went through for the decision. So I just wanted to.
No, I appreciate your comment, Sam, and you're absolutely right.
No problem. Otherwise, it went smoothly, and I'm glad you got the people you needed to do. This is a project that was much needed and long overdue, and I'm excited to see what the outcome will be.
I'm looking forward to seeing. This is David. I'm looking forward to seeing our TAAC models in this video. And also, I would. This probably goes without saying, but members on this committee will gladly share whatever is produced through their networks as well. I know that a lot of us represent organizations, so we can help spread this information around as well. So once you have final stuff, definitely share it with us.
It's
I'm
coming
sure
soon. I just saw a draft of it today, so it was just creating some edits that need to happen before we were ready to release it.
I remember my other question.
Go ahead,
David?
Heidi. As long as it
David?
pertains to priority seating video.
Yes, it does.
Okay,
Can
thank
we
you.
also do it in different languages? Because I've seen so many people in different cultures sit in the area is
Yep,
for the disabled.
that's the next
So
step.
we're not only talking, and then also teach, I call them everyday people that ride the train, make them top priority too, because people who come home from work, well, now we're staying home a lot, but I've seen a lot of work people sit there too, and just anybody, it doesn't matter, but we need it in many different languages that you can think of. And please hire people that actually know how to speak the language, that actually know the language very well. And if they do have that culture voice, maybe that will help, like if they speak Spanish, they're actually Spanish and they have that culture in them, the voice, maybe they'll want to listen more, they actually, I don't know how to explain it, but they actually live it every day, and so then maybe the people who come to the website or your advertising, they would understand. And then you say you have it in different languages when you advertise it.
Yep. What's really nice is YouTube, which is where we place a lot of our videos, do automatically translate. You can actually have the settings so that the closed captioning is within that language.
This is Sam Jasmine again.
Say again?
This is Sam again.
Yeah.
I think you're going to make the same comment I was going to, Sam. Go ahead.
Oh, am I? Okay, well, my only comment is audio description, yes, because most of it, there wasn't a ton of talking. It's mostly action.
Yep, because we added voiceovers afterwards. So there's narrative that happens that's been edited into the video.
And the audio description of what happens will be in there.
You are correct.
Okay, just checking. Thank you.
Yep.
And just a tip, I'm sure you know this as well, Ange, but anytime you do auto captions, make sure to go in there and double check them because they're not 100%.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sure you
I'm glad you
when
brought that up, David, because that's very true. And also in different languages, make sure you have someone that knows how to translate it, because they use words different than we do sometimes. So you might be saying the same thing and thinking the same thing. It's just how do you translate it into their language?
we also hire a service that does some of our translations, but when we translate materials, we tend to translate them into Spanish, Somali, and Hmong.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And if there are no other comments from TAAC members, we can move on and we gain some time here, which I was hoping was going to happen because we have a full agenda today.
Good job, Ann.
Yeah,
Thank
I'm
you.
excited. I'm excited.
Thank you for coming.
Oh, I have another presentation, so I'm not going anywhere.
Just right into the next part, Ange.
Okay.
This should be quick too, I would imagine.
Yep. So once again, you get me back, and I was asked to give a small presentation on how are our metro systems named. We have light rail, we have what are called bus rapid transit systems. And so you may know some of them as like the blue and green line for our trains. We have the A line, the C line, and the upcoming orange line. And those have a process in how they're being named. And so this is kind of a nice little introduction on how that takes place. So let's go ahead and get started. And so as I mentioned before with the Metro Blue and Green Line, if you're not familiar with those already, the Blue Line travels between Mall of America, the airport, into downtown Minneapolis, and the Green Line travels between Union Depot and downtown St. Paul, the University of Minnesota, and downtown Minneapolis. We're going to go to the next screen. And so the arterial bus rapid transit system, also known as ABRT, uses letter designations. So we already have the A and C line in service. And then we have the D line, which will be launching next year's December. We have the B line launching expected in 2023. We have the E line launching expectedly in 2025. And the F line is still being determined. And the reason that these are given letter names is that they travel in residential communities without the use of freeways. So if you think of the A line that travels along Snelling Avenue and then turns onto Ford Parkway, which then becomes 46th Street, that stays on a residential avenue. It doesn't travel on I-94 or anything like that. And that's why they're given letters. If we go to the next frame, we still have arterial bus rapid transit, and these have the color designations, such as the red line, which is in existence from Mall of America out to Apple Valley. We have the upcoming orange line, which will travel from downtown Minneapolis to Burnsville. And then we have the purple line, which is still in talks and negotiated on where that will travel. But all three of these will travel on highways. And so that's why we know why they get the colored designations. And then let's see what the next frame is. And I have click-throughs if people want to know more. I'm not sure if these PowerPoints are sent out, but there are videos available on our YouTube channel on metro routes, current and upcoming metro routes, and the map of the future and current metro routes, which may be informative. And then you, if this is sent out, using whatever adaptive materials to be used for hearing or understanding how those are presented. And I think that's it. I think I'm open for questions after that. I was right. And keep in mind, being in marketing, I don't have a say in how these are named. These are come much higher up, but it's more educational.
Thank you, Ange. I don't see this as being a long discussion. I think there was some curiosity from TAAC members as to the maybe not so logically seeming naming convention, but did any TAAC members have questions for Ange? Darryl, go ahead.
I just want to say, Ange, and this goes to, I believe Sam was the one that brought it to her attention. She wanted to know a little bit more about it. And I just want to say that I am impressed that, you know, because I know Sam brought this question up last month or the month before, and I'm just impressed how you guys, namely staff, as well as you, Chair Friendly, how you guys took what you're hearing from your membership, from our members, and you're actually putting it on the agenda for next month. So I want to say how impressed I am about how you guys took Sam's question or a comment and then turned it in and had Ann come back and explain it to us. So thank you for that. And thank you, Ann, for that. It wasn't so high level detailed of how those are named and who gets those designations, because I know a little bit more inside with the commissioners and how those letters are argued at the federal level to get us those colored designations. So I would like to hear some of that in the future. But I thank you for being very quick on your feet and coming back to us with that answer. And I hope it helps Sam, because it definitely helps me to know arterial means you're on a side street to a highway, right? Is that what that means?
Arterial is just the mode, excuse me, the mode of bus. So we know that regular bus service has local and express.
Yes.
And arterial has limited stops.
Okay.
So like when the A line took over, the stops were a little bit more spread out, but we were able to offer service that was much faster because of it. So it wasn't stopping on every block. That is what gets designated the letters, as long as it doesn't follow on the freeways or highways.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Yep.
Patty, go ahead.
Yes. Okay, great. I was wondering, it's very helpful to have this. I wonder about the lettering, the sequencing of letters. I know in terms of, I would expect that it would be starting, you know, A is the first one, but it's not. B is the second one. Is there any kind of thought about sequencing so that it's not the other thing that comes to mind, and I know we're not talking about this exactly, but let's say on numbering of buses, are numbers reserved or as new bus numbers are added, is the sequencing, is the pattern? because when you've got somebody with thought process issues,
Mhm.
being able to explain the gaps, you know, it can help bring them more unified. I don't know if that's a part of, I realize you're not the sole decider.
Well, thank you for understanding that. The numbers I can't give a reason. I can't give an answer for because I don't know. I wasn't prepared to answer for that. The
Right.
letter designations, we encountered delays on the beeline. And so instead of holding up everything, we just went
Everything.
ahead and did the other lines, and we will activate the beeline when it's that time.
Is that something that in the discussion is, you know, with ADA, we have certain dimensions that we talk or
Mhm.
specifications. Is that part of the questions that are triggered?
The
So,
For the lettering,
mhm,
if everything goes smoothly, it would be A, B, C, D, E, as our brains would associate.
work, right,
Uh,
yeah,
the beeline was an exception to the
okay,
rule.
yeah. It helps to
Mhm.
understand. Good deal. Thank
So,
you.
like after the E line comes the F line, and then G, H, I, and so on.
Good deal. Thank you.
Anything else?
Any other TAC members?
Yeah, this is Heidi. To go back to what Patty was, if I'm saying her name right, was saying, just the talk we just had, because we had this discussion yesterday. Someone said, well, they wanted to go to Walmart in West St. Paul, and all they saw was the 68. They didn't see the letter on the side. So how do you do any training for all those letters? You know, like you gave a good example that I could think of, like one letter, you know, because Darryl was asking a really good question where the one letter has more stops and another letter has short, you know what I mean? So we
I,
can teach people with disabilities what all these different letters do, you know, and because you got to have some kind of way of distinguishing, because on the city buses we know like the 68C goes a certain direction. We know certain things go a certain direction by letters and numbers,
so
you
you're
know.
talking branches then.
Mm-hmm.
So like the 68C, as you mentioned before. So that part I'm not prepared to answer. I don't have that
And
information for the branches. I was
mm-hmm.
prepared to talk about the bus rapid transit systems and
That's
that
what I'm talking
designation.
about, because when we get on the trains, we have to know certain things when we
Hmm.
do certain things. And we familiarize ourselves with certain things, like certain stops and certain, the blind people have their techniques, the people who are processing have their techniques, and the people in different kinds of wheelchairs, and they all have their techniques in how to get where they need to go. So are there any tips on the trains like we do with the buses, you know, to order to get where we need to go? Or I understand that if I get off at certain stops, you know, and then I can get over to that other train or that other bus, you know, little tips, because we do it for the city buses. The trains are a little bit different sometimes. We have to rely on, you know, being on the train and watching the screen if you can read the screen, you know, because a blind
Yep.
person can't, and then has to figure out how many stops. So with their techniques, because I think it's great that we have all this transportation for trains. It's just now we have to teach all different kinds of people with different processing and disabilities, and we want them to be out there in the world, you know, but we don't want it so complicated that I stay home.
No, and I understand what you're saying. So on trains, we know that there are where the overhead readers that announce the next station, but there's also announcements. We call them annunciators that are on the trains that announce the next stop. Now we can't control the volume of people speaking on the trains, obviously, and so that's a challenge. Is if there's other technology or things like that, that's something that needs to be looked into. Our metro maps are being developed all the time and updated to show connectivity. If you take the blue line, we know that the blue line connects to the A line at the 46th Street station, which in turn also connects to the green line eventually if you take it. And so it's just understanding the connectivity, and the maps tend to help with that. Our TIC office and those professionals can help a lot with that understanding what connects. So if someone is getting off at Lake Street, what Lake and Highway 35, say they're taking the Orange Line in December, what routes are being connected there and how can they move from point A to point B?
Do you think we need to sit down and talk about it for someone who can't read maps very well, but understands by communication and understanding and objects and shapes and whatever you can get, so we could bring in a group of people to talk about this? Because this can open up so much more independence by connecting not just the buses, but the trains too, you know? So I
Yeah.
think it should be talked about. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And I wonder if that might be a outreach opportunity.
I think that would be great if TAAC could bring, or you could send out a big, and the community can speak to you and say what they think and hate and like and love, you know? You give you all your different opinions and then you can figure it out, you know?
Well, because I work in marketing, so my job is communication and advertising
That's what you would do.
and
You would
partners.
get the people to get out there, and whoever's job it is to, you market it, but then you get their attention to understand how this all works. I don't know if I'm saying it right. It kind
Heidi,
of goes hand in hand with my question. Thank you.
Heidi, this is David. I think I know where you're headed. Maybe we can have a conversation offline about educating our community, because I think that's what your desire is to have.
My desire is that you can get on a train and a bus and not have a lot of confusion, and you know how to do it with the marketing, with the education videos, and all this that we're talking about today, because it's all great ideas. Just how do we do it so everybody can enjoy both sides of it? That would be my dream and hopes for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Do any other TAC members have questions regarding the naming convention? I do know, I'll toss this in the mix. I do know, from what I understand, that the desire for some of this naming convention did come from local elected officials. I think county commissioners. So that I think that drove some of the naming. If that's incorrect, correct me, Ange. But just to know that
It was mentioned that there were some political reasons behind things, but that they were leaving it rather vague.
as politicians do. Um, all right. Well, and I have a note in the chat here from Michelle Fure that that is correct. All
Thanks,
right.
Michelle.
I know y'all didn't want to say it, so I figure I would. Um, any other questions? Otherwise, we will move on. We are ahead of schedule here, which is a good thing. We're making good time. All
Well,
right.
thank you, everybody. It's very nice meeting y'all.
Thank you for coming. We have a few minutes early here. Our the scenario planning outreach folks all here and ready to go. If not, we can do something else if y'all aren't here. But otherwise, jump on in. I'll give a tiny introduction. There was an email sent out a few weeks ago to TAC members requesting potential input, and I figured that we might have some time on the agenda at the very next meeting, which is this meeting. So I figured I'd have them come and make the formal ask to TAC members and give us a little background and explain what exactly is being asked. So take it away. It looks like Sarah's gonna start us off here.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we all are here. So I'm actually going to ask Michelle to kick us off, if that's okay.
You've all gotten to hear from me today already. So hello again, Michelle Fure from the Communications Department at the Council. So we have a great opportunity today to talk to you about the very beginning of the long range regional planning efforts. And, to a lot of the points that were made earlier today, it's better to engage early and make sure that we're getting people involved at a very preliminary level so that you can have more influence over the process. And that's really why we're here today. I just want to give you a quick sort of 1 minute summary of what the regional plan is, and then Sarah and Barish can spend some time talking about what we're hoping to engage you all on moving forward. So the long range regional plan currently is called, it's the one that's currently in place is the 2040 plan, and it's called Thrive MSP 2040. It includes a lot of different guidance and policy around the development in the region. It is not the most important thing necessarily, but it is one of the unique responsibilities that the Metropolitan Council has, is to create this regional plan every 10 years following the census and related sort of predictions of what the population will look like in the region 30 years into the future. So the next regional plan will be for 2050. We are just now receiving the census numbers and beginning the process of engaging and trying to think about all of the critical issues and challenges that we're going to be facing in the region over the next 30 years. And as part of that process, we really want to engage our key partners and policymakers in this process to make sure that we're hearing from you and understanding the trends and expectations that you see in this region that we need to make sure are included in the policy that the regional plan oversees. Among the topics are transportation. So you've probably heard about the transportation policy plan. That is a part of this process. The land use policies are right in Thrive MSP 2040. So those are things that will be relevant to local governments as they plan for their comprehensive visions for the next 30 years. Water resources policy, regional parks policy, and some other things about community designations and housing. So that's the kind of the big picture stuff real quick. But ultimately the policy that's set forth in this regional plan really affects all the different aspects of the work that the council does. So it's really important for us to be hearing from, like I said, critical partners and stakeholders like y'all. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Sarah, and she can, I know you know her, but she'll introduce herself and then let you know who Barish is, since she's probably a new face for you, and they're going to talk about our efforts coming up.
Thanks, Michelle. Thank you, Chair. My name is Sarah Maskey. I work in communications and outreach and engagement, and I not only support transportation services, but I also am supporting this council-wide effort with the Regional Development Guide. And this is one of our first steps and our first outreach opportunities with the Regional Development Guide, and we're super excited about it. It's something that we didn't get a chance to do in our last Regional Development Guide, and we're looking forward to hearing the input from all of our advisory committee members. So what this is, it starts out with a thing called scenario planning. And what that does is it allows us to explore many possible futures and work through those to decide what the future we would like to see would be. And so what we are asking for from advisory committee members is to participate in a workshop that will help us identify some of the trends and the uncertainties that are facing the region. So internally, we've talked a lot about climate change, the pandemic, working from home, population as it's shifting across the region, other issues that are significantly affecting like the regional plans for transportation, housing, land use, parks, and water quality, supply, and treatment. So these are just some of the high-level things, and we're really super excited to kick this off with the advisory committees. And rather than coming to each of the advisory committees alone, we want to bring all the advisory committees together in a way that we can talk about the different impacts, trends, and uncertainties together, and hear how things intersect across the different topics we're talking about. So what we're looking for is about 4 to 5 volunteers from each advisory committee. We're scheduling the first round of workshops in December and a follow-up round in January. And we're still figuring out those dates, so you'll need to stay tuned for those. It's a 90-minute committee member time commitment for presentation, structured conversation, and interactive exercises. So you'll get a chance not only to do some big group conversations. We'll also be breaking out in small groups to have conversations about some of these trends and uncertainties. And we're planning to provide key information ahead of time so that you have information to review before you come to the workshops. And I'm going to let Barish introduce herself so that she's really the subject matter expert on scenario planning. So if you have any questions about that process, she's here to help answer those. Barish?
Hi, everyone. This is Barish Dawes, and I'm the project manager for the scenario planning efforts at the council. I'm sorry I can't turn my cameras. For some reason, my Wi-Fi is crashing, so I apologize for that. In this effort, we're really hoping to get your opinion on some of the key issues that impact the region now and going forward. So we're hoping that you could bring your unique perspectives and help us figure out what are some of the challenges that we're facing as a region and how we can address some of those going forward in our regional development guide. So I'm happy to be here just to sit through the session and take any questions that you might have. But I just want to reiterate that the scenario planning piece is really a portion of our regional development guide efforts. And we're hoping that we can have a conversation about not just one future, but some of the other types of futures that might play into our future. So I'll leave it at that. And if you have any questions for me, I'll be here. Thank you.
I'll just add that one of the questions we've been getting as we've been talking to the advisory committees is we're inviting participation because of who you are and what you represent as a member of the TAAC, but also as people in our communities who are conscientious of how not only the built environment, but the policies around the region affect everyday life. We're not intending this to be any kind of or necessary like a position from the TAAC or anything like that. This is not a formal engagement in terms of, you have to bring like all of the viewpoints of the TAAC members to this work. It's really individuals who bring the TAAC perspective and bring your own personal perspectives to this process. So don't think about it as like you have to go back and get everybody's feedback. It's not that kind of engagement. It's really very much in line with the initial phases where we're really just trying to get a sense of some of the possibilities moving forward. And there will be a number of additional opportunities in the coming years. There will be a couple, 2-3 more years here before we actually have a finalized plan put together. So we're getting to you at a very fundamental level, but there will also be other opportunities. In fact, probably places where the TAAC as a whole can, certainly weigh in on a handful of other things as well. So I just wanted to clarify that this is not intended to be sort of a representative exercise per se, as much as it is just we want to get some people with your unique perspectives at the table to have this conversation.
Thank you all. This is David. 2 quick questions and then I'll open it up to TAAC members. Who all is being invited or will be represented on this advisory or on this scenario planning outreach? And then is it's high level? Do I understand that correctly, or is there detailed stuff happening in this as well?
Thank you, Chair. I'll answer the first part, and then I might ask Barish to jump in on the second part. We are asking representatives from all of the advisory committees at the council. I do not have the list in front of me, but it represents all of the working areas that we have in the council. And we will also have the opportunity to have a few council members there, which will be really exciting in terms of being able to, we don't often get council members in the room with our advisory committee members. So I think that will be a really rich conversation. And so for the second half of that question, Barish, do you want to take that?
Sure. I would say that the conversation we will be having will be a fairly high-level conversation, and it would specifically relate to the types of uncertainties and trends that shape the future. So we will be looking at something like, what happens if climate change is really serious or not? Or what about racial disparities that we're experiencing? So those are the types of trends or uncertainties that we look into. And what we want from you is to bring from your experiences when you look at the future, what do I see that's going to make its imprint on our future? What are some key issues that jump to your mind? And we want to hear, based on your own experiences and your own views of what the region looks like now, what it is likely to carry forward and what dimensions of that particular future would be rising to the surface. Does that answer the question?
It does answer my question. Thank you. I count 10 advisory committees on the Metropolitan Council's website. So it's going to be robust. Darryl, go ahead.
If I'm not mistaken, these are similar to the 2020 plan and then the 2030 plan, right? The Thrive is what you're talking about. Thrive 2030, right? And the 2020 plan was when you went out in the communities, you went particularly, I remember the community I was in that time. It was in West St. Paul, Dakota County. Yeah, these are those discussions, right? And then you're required by state statute or by organizational statute to put a report out that usually follows a report to the legislature, correct? Am I not mistaken or am I wrong?
Oh, you're muted.
Meeting. Oh, sorry. No, I'm not.
Oh, you had a delay. Sorry.
Mr. Chair and members, yeah, the meetings that I think you're talking about, Vice Chair Paulson, were actually the formal engagement at the very end of the process, where we have to have a handful of public meetings and public hearings, and then we put a full public comment report together. We will definitely be doing that again at the end of this process. What we're talking about now is actually way earlier in the process than that. It's much more foundational in terms of getting really good information from people who have experience in the region. So this will build on that for sure.
Yeah, I just remember looking at really extensive like land plot maps and stuff like that in the community. Am I right in those discussions, or am I off base a little bit?
Yeah, like I said, that will be something that is a part of the full plan when it's all completed, but that's not going to be adopted until 2024, 2025. So we're at the very early stages here where we'll be talking much more high level, much more about concepts like climate and population and stuff like that. So you won't have to look at hopefully you won't have to look at any detailed plat maps, but there might certainly be some data that we share with you.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Now I'm muted. Other TAAC members, John?
Yeah. Whether
Mute your feedback. Can anybody who's not talking mute your mic, please? Give it another try, John. Now you're muted.
I'm wondering if the meetings will be available via Zoom if I choose to participate.
That is a great question, Chair and members. This is going to be a virtual engagement. We have not yet talked about what platform we will be using. The council has approved use of both WebEx and Teams for our purposes. So we're still talking about what that's going to look like.
If that kind of thing is available.
Correct. We will be doing this completely virtually.
Good. Thank you.
Sam
Do any-
Jasmine,
Yes, go ahead, Sam.
if I could make sure that I understood, this would require 90 minutes each of our time, and it would be a 2-meeting thing for now.
Thanks, Sam and Chair. The first part of this will be, we will be giving 2 options so that we can get as many people in the room as we can, and that you have an opportunity to participate at a time that is good for you. We will be offering a second workshop follow-up to this workshop in January. And again, that will have 2 instances so people can choose which one works best for their schedules. But we want to make sure that we're making it as easy as possible for people to participate. And so options are always good.
So one 90-minute chunk of time is what we're talking about.
That is correct.
Okay.
In December.
Well, I'm interested.
Wonderful. Thanks, Sam.
So yes, go ahead, Sam.
Nope, I'm done.
I'm definitely interested as well, Chair.
Thank you, Darryl. I'll take some notes. So what I'll do, unless there are no more questions from TAAC members.
Yeah, I have one thing.
Oh, hold
I'm
on.
glad they're doing.
Heidi, hold on,
Oh.
please. Let me finish. It's
Okay.
always polite to let people finish talking before you
Oh,
jump in.
sorry.
So it sounds like we do have another question from a TAAC member. But then after that, I'll ask other TAAC members for questions, and then if people are interested in this, I would ask for them to reach out to me outside of this meeting, and then we can set the number of 4 to 5 of us who will participate in this. So go ahead, Heidi.
I think it's just a great idea that they're doing, and I want to commend them and how they're putting it. You know, the new lady said it beautifully that's on the team, because the news has been talking about this recently in a couple of different ways, you know, and all the different and how our future is going to look. And also think about COVID-19 too, throw that in the mix. You know, because I don't know what the future holds on that, you know, and how all the different things we do. So I commend you, because from what I'm hearing, it's the exact same thing that Minnesota wants to work on. So we're on the right track, and make sure that we stay involved in the disabled are a part of it, because I use the buses and trains and the parks and everything out in the community. So I don't mind being a part of it. I don't have to be. I'll give my opinions, David, any which way I can in the future. I don't have to be on the committee. But I know that Minnesota has already been talking about it, you know, because of our winters coming up. So keep that in mind. And I thank you for bringing this. You're on the right track of starting.
Thank you, Heidi. And Chair, yes, as Michelle mentioned, there will be many opportunities to participate in engagement opportunities for the Regional Development Guide. So if you can't make this time, that's quite all right.
We have a question or comment from Richard.
Yeah, hello. I thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to get a little more detail. You will also be examining the demographic changes, and especially like the increase in the senior population and locations of senior housing, especially as it proliferates in suburban areas and that sort of thing.
Yes, I would. I don't have the technical expertise to answer that fully, but we do have a data team that is looking at all of that data in the background. So this is our, we'll call it the qualitative piece of getting information from our stakeholders, and our advisory committees are really key stakeholders to start off with. And we'll start expanding that out. And as I mentioned in my message, that this will help inform future engagements, not only with your committee, but with people outside of your committee. So we're really excited to kick that off here and doing that kind of internal look first.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Are there any other TAAC members who have questions about scenario planning outreach? Are you calling it a work group? Are you calling it a task force? As if it really matters in the end, but what are you calling it?
We're calling it workshops. So it's not a formal group. It's really, we want to keep the same people participating because I think it's important from a continuity standpoint, but we're not formalizing a group per se.
Sounds totally acceptable to me. Any other TAAC members want to comment? All right, so what I'll do, TAAC members, is I'll send out an email to all of you, just kind of giving you a reminder of this and then asking if you want to participate. All you have to do is respond to that email saying that you do want to participate, and we will go from there.
Dave, I had a quick question. Obviously, I'm not a member, but I thought it might help frame who might be interested.
You're not allowed to talk, Andy. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
That should be a rule in all my meetings. They would go much more smoothly. I'm wondering, is the idea from this to bring up, only issues that the council can take unilateral action upon, or can we bring up things that might require, legislative advocacy and those types of things?
Thank you, Andy, for the question, and chair and members. I would say that this is an open and broad discussion, and that we are not putting any limitations on that open and broad discussion. So we're not putting any bounds based on law or statutes. So I think it's safe to say that we want all of your ideas, and we want to hear all of your thoughts on the trends and uncertainties in the region.
This is David. That's a fantastic question, Andy. And what I hear is whatever bubbles up from this group is you'll take into consideration, even if it's funding. Any other TAAC members? Or we have a few minutes too if other people on the call are curious about clarification on this.
I'm glad that was brought up, and Andy made a good point, and I'm glad he spoke.
Yeah, I agree, Heidi. Cool. Well, you'll be receiving an email from me shortly, TAAC members, asking your participation, asking if you want to participate in this. Thank you, Sarah, Michelle, and Barish. I appreciate you coming and clarifying this for us. I think this will be fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us today.
Our pleasure. All right, on to the subcommittee reports. I don't think that Ken is here, but if I am mistaken, Ken, speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, we did get a pretty comprehensive update on the blue line last month, so his not being here is okay. Chris Vates, would you like to give us updates on the green line? If you're still around and not muted. I'll come back if you can chime in. I'll come back to you if you want to give us an update on the green line. Gold line and or rush line. Darryl.
We've gotten pretty good reports lately about those. I know last month I was so excited about some federal designations that we got around the I believe it was both the gold line and the rush line. We had pretty good updates around there. The gold line was mentioned in the presidential transportation plan overall as being the standard or the model BRT project for the country. And then the rush line or the purple line did get their color designation. That was approved by the feds. So that was a good thing as well. And I know that the gold line is in 90% completion, almost ready to go for construction. So they will be doing some utility work, or have already done some utility work by the time I deliver the message. And yeah, we're all on plans. We're excited for both of those BRT lines to roll out. I'm excited to be part of both of them. That is 2 of 8 BRT lines that the governor did have in his robust transportation policies and ideals that he ran on and got elected on. So I hope he carries some of those same issues forward in his next go around. But well, you know, that's to be determined who decides to run. And you know, politics is a really strange game. But as long as we can keep transportation on the table and not make it part of the discussion of what do we cut, how do we slice things back a little bit. Let's not do that with transportation. Let's understand that transportation affects all of us, and it's not just for those of us that can use it, you know, that have mobility challenges, but it makes it easier for those of us that don't have cars or don't have access to Ubers and Lyfts and those kind of things. So I think everybody on this committee for always sharing their comments and being very intelligent and deliberate with their transportation concerns. So thank you. I don't know if I did that right, but
Thank you, Darryl, for the update.
or what I did. Thanks.
I don't think we need to talk about bus priority seating TAAC work group again because we got a nice update as an agenda item. As far as my chair report goes, I don't have anything to bring to you today. Is there anybody from the public who would like to make a comment? Okay, we can move into member comment. Are there members who would like to comment about anything and everything? Go ahead, Darryl.
Sure. I will just want to draw your attention back to my comment that I made relating to the Mall of America transit family bathroom, and the fact that I will be going out there on a more regular basis to make sure that that transit facility gets used properly, and all the facilities that we put there get the same type of treatment as every other facility, because I think it's ridiculous to have a very beautiful bathroom center stage and then not be able to use it for whatever reason the police want to say they're not using it. I think that's a cop out. I think it's a waste of space. If they didn't want to maintain it, they shouldn't have put it there. So the fact that it's there, they have to figure out a way to maintain it. So that's my member comment, and I hope we do something about it.
Thank you, Darryl. Do any other TAAC members have a comment that they would like to make? We have.
Yeah, I have a member comment, and
Go
this is,
ahead.
and I don't know who I talked to, but there hasn't been a clear thing on Metro Mobility about the seating order, because COVID, they blocked off the 2 seats in the front, and now the vehicles, every vehicle I've been in, mostly buses, Some drivers are saying that you can't sit behind the driver, but there's no sign saying you can't sit there, because for a while you were blocking it up. And I know certain vehicles have very limited seats, so I don't know how it worked. But at one point we were all following the same rules and ideas and stuff. And I know the city bus wants us to wear a mask, and I don't know if it's the same with Metro Ability all the way until the end of the year. And then I don't know who decides that we have to keep wearing them. But how about the seating thing? Because you're not, by having the buses all different, it doesn't teach us and the people who need to learn that they can only sit in certain seats. Because I ride Metro Mobility enough to know that you need certain order to teach. You know, just certain people with certain disabilities so they can follow your rules correctly. I just wanted to bring that up. And do I bring that back to Metro Mobility, you know, that, or Andy, or who do I talk to? Because there's no, right now it's all screwed up.
So for clarification, Heidi, you're curious why some seats are closed off and some seats aren't?
No, it used to be for a long time the two front seats, the one behind the driver and the one across from that, you know, right behind where we go up the steps, and right behind it is the seat. The two first seats were cut off, and then the rest we can all sit in. But now it seems like, because we're getting more into the community and picking up more people, I don't know the rhyme and the reason, but every vehicle is set up a little bit different. Some have both seats in the front you can't sit in, and others have one that is available in the front, you know, row. And even the drivers don't know how to answer the questions, you know.
Chair and
So they
Heidi,
wonder that
I
too.
understand the question.
Thank
And
you
I can
very
either
much.
answer it here if there's time, or we can contact the service center offline, depending on other comments.
If we have time, and since you're willing to answer it, Andy, please go ahead.
So there were two there that I heard. The current rule for management at the MMSC is that the seat directly behind the driver is still cut off to encourage physical distancing from the driver who's out in the community for, you know, a 10 or 12-hour shift. But that every other seat is open, including the front seat on the door side. So if the front two seats, Heidi, are ever, you know, both off limits, that is a policy violation, and we can act upon that and get it fixed. The only seat that should be off limits right now is the seat directly behind the driver.
Then you
We
need
have,
to go back to your fleets of your people and talk about it, because what you're saying is not 100% happening correctly.
and I will say that we heard at the community conversation that some drivers are letting folks sit in that seat behind the driver upon request. We are aware that there are a variety of reasons that people might prefer that seat. You know, so we are bringing that back to senior and executive management based on feedback from the community conversations for reconsideration about potentially opening up that seat. And then the second question you had about masks, those are required on Metro Mobility, identically to the way that they are required on the city bus. And the people making that rules are the federal government. That's currently a federal executive order that is in place into January.
And then will you be telling us, Andy, on when we call to make our reservation, when we can stop wearing them? I'll always wear them until we don't have to, but you know what I'm saying.
Thank you.
Chair, Heidi, members of the
it.
committee, we will communicate that out.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Heidi, and thank you, Andy. Go ahead, Sam.
I would like to just comment again on the double seat thing, because I pushed back on this one more than once, because I feel like the logic with having the one in the front door is flawed. you're having us sit in the seat across, or that's right by the front door, right, when you come up. But I just had one the other day that had like absolutely no room for, and the purpose would be to fit my dog and my feet. It was very tight quarters, and I did shove my dog in there, but it was very tight. My dog's a fairly small dog. That would not go well for most people's dogs who are larger. And the seat that is behind the driver is actually further away from the driver, and there's plexiglass between that seat and the driver. This makes much more sense to me than having the front door one, which there's no plexiglass if you make a beeline to the driver. So I'm not sure how that logic was, discovered, but I feel like it's flawed, and I wish you guys would really seriously take a look at that. There's almost always, and sometimes the seat, so it's whichever is has the most room. Sometimes the seat by the door does, but I just had one the other day that was a horrible legroom seat, which makes me wonder who picked that bus to begin with. Anyway, that's my comments.
Thank you for the comment, Sam. We have about 6 minutes left. Would any other TAAC members like to take opportunity to make a member comment? All right, well, if not, we can be done about 5 minutes early.
Can we do public comment? I got one more thing.
Yes, we can revisit public comment from any
Sorry
member
about that.
public. No, go ahead, we got the time.
I just wanted to quickly point out here, as I think some of you were probably thinking, and I thought I picked up in Darryl's response, but as a disability advocacy organization, we'd be remiss if not to note that there is significant correlation between folks who experience homelessness and people with disabilities. So for a variety of reasons, including some that are very much in keeping with the core functions of the TAAC, I would encourage the committee to push back on notions that, well, we don't want homeless people in X, whether we're talking about trains or buses or bathrooms. These are members of the community and disproportionately members of our disability community, and poverty ought not be a barrier to public amenities. So I just wanted to get that out there.
Thank you, Andy.
Absolutely.
I think I'm gonna say something too, I guess, for my member comment about this, because I thought about it when it came up when Darryl was talking. I think that same thing applies to well, the same thing does apply to substance use disorder as well, which is considered a disability too. And these folks are members of society. And I don't think that was Darryl's. I'll get to you, Darryl. I'll get to you. I don't think Darryl, that was your comment that you want to exclude these folks from using. I think the point is that these facilities, since they exist, need to be maintained and properly taken care of for everybody to use, including the members of our society that maybe need to use them because they, yeah.
Absolutely. It's like I mean, I deal with folks that are transient folks or folks that are homeless that don't have a place to stay at night. That there's over 400 kids on our streets just in St. Paul alone every night that don't have a place to lay their head and get a warm meal in their belly. So I mean, having said that, youth is one of the highest growing numbers of homelessness that we have. So when I mentioned the fact that that cop said that to me, or that transit officer said that to me, it was because that's the general mindset of the public that we have to overcome. We, meaning when I say we, I mean people that serve people in the public, people that are public advocates, people that are transit advocates. We're constantly overcoming that negative narrative that these services or these places are being taken up by the undesirable or the homelessness or drug addicts. And what I say to that is these are people too. We're all people. We all deserve the same dignity. We all deserve the same respect, regardless what our challenges are that we have. So what I meant by saying that story is that that's a huge barrier that we have to overcome in the public narrative, because the public says these things to not only people with disabilities, but to people that need those services just like you or I. So
Correct.
that's why I said that.
Correct. And locking the door is not the way to keep folks safe. You have the facility, you maintain the facility, and at the same time, you keep people who use the facility safe. Whether it's you, Darryl, or anybody who's in the vicinity. But we got 2 minutes left. This could be an hour-long conversation,
Right.
in and of itself.
And thank you, staff, for being aware of it. Thank you for acknowledging it. Thank you, Chair, for taking so much of our time on this very delicate topic, because it's not going to go away. It's here to stay. We got to deal with it. So let's deal with it.
Well,
So we have to look at the issue from all sides when we talk about this, because it's not just the homeless, it's the disabled and the homeless and the regular people. So could we all use that facility and figure out how we can come to a compromise where everyone gets to use it and we're not discriminating anybody, but at the same time there's safety in using it. That's what I look at.
Yes, thank you, Heidi. And that's why I did make my safety comment, is because everybody should feel safe. And addressing homelessness is something that it's not this committee's job, but you know, it's very real in the society we live in. But on that happy note,
Just so you know, David, it is the real issue because I see it everywhere, including transportation. So we have to figure out how we can all kind of work together and get along with each other. At the same time, we can accomplish taking care of some of this. It might not be our job, but who do we send it to help it? Because I know we've done some work where we have cleaned some of this up. Thank you.
that's a good note to end on. All right. Thank you all for coming. We are right at 2:30. We will adjourn this installment, the November installment of the Transportation Accessibility Advisory Committee. I look forward to seeing you all in December. Have a good rest of your week.
Thank you, David.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.